Hi everyone. How are you doing today? Before we begin, I'm trying to make better and more visually interesting guides in the future. If you have any suggestions or want me to make a guide on any Pokemon, please let me know in the comments. In these guides, I go over every move the Pokemon has, some tips on how to play it and the best item choices, giving you freedom to make your own builds while also understanding how the Pokemon works. Now, for today's quick guide, we have a Pokemon that definitely doesn't need an introduction. He's basically the face of Pokemon. Today we're going to talk about Pikachu. One of the starters in Pokemon Unite. Pikachu is a special attacker with an incredible large range, paired with a handful of amazing early moves, making this Pokemon one of the strongest laners in the game. He also is great at controlling your opponent's movements, since one mistake and Pikachu can make sure they will not be able to reposition themselves in time due to his strong crowd control effects in every move. Pikachu has two main disadvantages. The first one is his lack of mobility, that when you look at his defenses and HP, is definitely not a good sign. So make sure you position yourself where you can deal damage, while keeping yourself outside of your opponent's range. And keep in mind that since the last patch, starting at level 9, Pikachu restores health every time any of his moves deals damage. The second is his late game. Pikachu's damage doesn't scale very well into the late game. This means that your damage doesn't increase that much, compared with the increase on each Pokemon's defenses and health with every level. So your main source of damage in the last fights of the match will be your Unite move. And with that in mind, let's take a look inside the practice area. As always, let's start with the basic attacks. Like each one of Pikachu's tools, it has a large range. The boosted attack deals extra damage and slows both the movement and attack speed by 10% during 2 seconds. This effect receives the name of Paralyze inside the game, and this effect is also inflicted through Pikachu's passive ability. It paralyzes all nearby enemies after receiving damage. This ability has a cooldown of 30 seconds. For the moves, you can start with either Thunder Shock or Electro Web. You will get the other move at level 3. I recommend picking Thunder Shock first. It deals damage to a target and nearby enemies, while also reducing their movement speed by 50% and the attack speed by 10% for 1 second. As you can see, this move is really fast, making it a great option to ensure you will get the last hit. And due to its effects, you can also make sure that your opponents are not running away from you and your lane partner. Next we have Electro Web. It locks the opponent in place, making it unable to move or use any attacks that change its position. This effect lasts for 1.5 seconds. If you are not alone, a good Electro Web can give you enough time to KO any opposing Pokemon that walks away from its goal zone. Those two moves can't miss. Once you have selected your target, they will always hit. At level 4 you can choose your next move, being either Electro Ball or Thunder. Electro Ball works similarly as Thunder Shock. This move locks onto a target, dealing damage to that Pokemon and a small area around it. It shares the same slow effects as Thunder Shock as well, but Electro Ball also deals 4% of the target's missing HP as damage, so that when they have less HP, this move will be stronger. This move also has a really short cooldown. The upgraded move deals more damage and the bonus is increased to 5% of the target's missing HP. Other option is Thunder. Thunder creates an area where thunders will fall, hitting every enemy there up to 5 times. Thunder Plus increased the number of hits from 5 to 7. These two moves received their upgrades at level 11. Thunder works as a more consistent source of damage, being more effective against Pokémons with a lot of HP as long as you can hit your targets, while Electro Ball deals all of its damage in a single hit, being the better option for securing objectives. Both of them are viable, so you can choose based on your playstyle and your team needs. For our second move slot, we have Volt Tackle and Thunderbolt. Volt Tackle makes Pikachu move to the targeted enemy's direction while making himself unstoppable, dealing damage and throwing the target in the air for 1.4 seconds. Volt Tackle Plus has its cooldown shortened by 2 seconds. Now Thunderbolt. You deal damage and stun the enemies in the designated area. This move is rather slow, so you have to predict your opponent's moves a little while aiming this move, to make sure it hits. Thunderbolt Plus deals more damage. Those two are upgraded at level 13. And again, both of them are great. Volt Tackle is better when your opponent's team has Pokémons that can dash directly into you. It will give time for your team to deal damage while creating some space between you and your target if they got really close. Thunderbolt gives you the option to stun more than one target at a time, but works better while keeping yourself far away. So you can choose whichever one works for you. Finally, at level 9 you get your Unite move. During 3 seconds, you will be surrounded by a huge area that hits enemies with bolts of lightning in range 4 times. The first one hits all enemies in range, the next 3 hits only one random target, but also damages the area around it. You can still use your moves during this Unite. It has a cooldown of only 89 seconds. So if can farm a little, you can use this move once each minute. This is also very useful as a tool to keep you alive. While the most popular movesets are Electro Ball and Volt Tackle, and Thunder and Thunderbolt. You can try out other combinations since all of Pikachu's moves are really good. Now that we covered the moveset, let's talk about the item choices. For battle items, I would recommend only X Speed or Eject button. These will help you with Pikachu's lack of mobility, making you able to get away from dangerous situations. And finally, for the held items, I will give the suggestions for the 2 most popular builds, then I'll quickly go over a tier list with all of the rest of them. For Electro Ball and Volt Tackle I recommend running Buddy Barrier, to give even more value to your Unite moves, which are really frequent. The shield will be helpful to keep you alive, making you able to use the Unite move defensively if needed. Focus Band to help you survive. And Choice Specs, to help you with your Electro Ball damage, making your secures easier. For Thunder and Thunderbolt, you can use the same build if you want, but I would recommend switching Choice Specs for Muscle Band. Since you will auto-attack a lot, you can make them at least hit the enemies for 3% of their remaining HP, and so being more efficient than Choice Specs in this case. Another strong option would be Energy Amplifier. It gives you a lot more damage during your Unite move, while also making its cooldown shorter. Below that line, I would not recommend any other item. Shell Bell is just not a great item. Most of the time you'll have better options. But hey, at least it gives you health back. Since Pikachu's moves do not benefit a lot from its special attack, both Wise Glasses and Special Specs are not that useful, but they at least will increase your damage a little. Scope Lens can make your basic attacks crit, dealing a good amount of damage. But with only 6% chance, you can increase your damage more consistently with Muscle Band. And lastly, Razor Claw. It also gives a little bit of crit chance, but the main function of this item is the bonus damage on basic attacks after using a move. Its effect has a really short cooldown. The only problem is that this bonus scales of your attack stat, which is 290 at level 15. So most of the time you get a bonus of around 120 damage after using a move, which is not the worst, but you can have better options. And with that, we conclude another quick guide. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it. If you still have some question about Pikachu, please feel free to ask in the comments. There are more guides like this coming soon. If you don't want to miss the next ones, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching. And until next time.